Yeah, Scott here. Today I want to talk about the whole invocation style of perks that we're getting from Sable in the new chapter and how the balance is extremely, extremely hard to get right. So as it stands right now, the only invocation perk, which is called Weaving Shadows, mathematically, it just doesn't really justify its use. It takes 2 minutes to channel, and you end up getting less time on generators than you would have gotten just sitting on generators. Now, it does not work exactly that simply because, if you're getting 105 charges among 7 generators, basically it means you have to use it right at the start of the match in order to get that benefit. A lot of people were saying, oh, maybe this might be good to bring to a 3-gen scenario because you can have someone not in the 3-gen still technically contributing to gens, but the problem is it's only 15 charges, and not only that, it's 15 regressible charges, so it really ends up just not doing much for a 3-gen. So there's a couple of ways that you can change this mechanic to make it work. There's also a way to just simply make this a base mechanic of the entire game. And I actually like the idea of it being a base mechanic and then changing this perk to something else, maybe modifying what that base mechanic does. But in my opinion, this is really cool as a base mechanic because it's too weak to be an actual perk, right? So first, let's talk about the ways to make it worth using as a perk and not a base mechanic. The most commonly suggested thing I've seen that I think I agree with is that rather than giving every generator on the map 15 charges, it removes 15 charges from the maximum amount as if you used a brand new part on basically every generator in the map. That is what I think would be probably the most fair, and that would actually be pretty useful because you couldn't just slap on regression and just negate all the time spent. At least if you do complete that dangerous invocation, then something is being done to help the match and it can't be regressed anymore. So I think that would actually make it a usable perk at the 15 charges. Another way you could do it, and this way is also pretty interesting. I've seen this suggested as well. None of these are my ideas, by the way. You could actually make it so it has a set number of charges. It has 105 charges to give to generators. That's split among 7, and that will basically give you the 15, right, on every generator. However, you can make the perk just have that 105 charges guaranteed to be divvied up among any generators left. So if there's 7, then every generator gets 15. If there's only 3 gens left, well, every gen is going to get basically a third of their progress completed. And that sounds like it could be really strong, but again, not really. You're taking 2 minutes to do a third of a generator. It's not really in your favor. The only time it would be actually useful is if it was in a 3-gen scenario, and then it would actually enable you to progress the generator in a safer area. It's strange that being in the basement in a 3-gen ends up being safer, but as long as the basement is not in the center of that 3-gen, the killer's never going to go over there if they're holding that area. So as an anti-3-gen perk, I think that makes it a lot more interesting, but then we have the reverse problem of, well, then it's never worth using at the start of the match. So it's only worth using at the end because why would you ever just want 15 charges that can be regressed early game? It's not really worth it. But I do like that idea as a sort of base kit thing that can help counter 3-gens. Alternatively, the third solution is we just make the perk do that, make it so it gives you a third of the generators left in like a 3-gen scenario, work out the math how that works, but also make it so the current version of it is just a base kit thing that works just pretty much by itself. Maybe not in the same way, though, because I still think having that by itself by default might be too strong. I don't know. Not really, though. Because the more I think about it, 15 regressible charges on a generator is really not that much. For 2 minutes of channel time is not much. So honestly, I think you could have this as a base mechanic, and it would not be overpowered. The current form of the perk is so weak that it could literally work as a base mechanic in the game and be fine. And actually a pretty interesting side objective, because if there's one thing that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game did right, it's enabling survivors to complete their objective in other ways. You can do the fuse box exit, you can go for the actual gas-powered gate, you could do a bunch of different things in order to still achieve the same goal of escaping. Just like in DBD, this enables you to do something else in order to escape, but in a different way. I want to see more of that stuff. I like that there's a side objective now, which is why I kind of want it to be base kit. Now, obviously, it would have to remain in this weak form as a base kit. We don't want it to be strong or anything, because giving just a free base kit thing to survivors with no downside, it needs to be pretty weak and barely justifiable to do. The whole point is it's not meant to be an advantage. It's meant to be something different. That's the entire point. If I had to summarize why I think it'd be fair, it would not be stronger or weaker. It would just be something else you could do. And I think, especially in 3-gen scenarios and things like that, that'd be really neat to have as a base kit mechanic. So those are the 3 things that you can do with it. You can empower the perk by making it remove from the maximum charges of a generator. You can power it by divvying it up so it works stronger at endgame, or you can make the perk do something else entirely and just simply make this a base game mechanic, because I think the potential is really interesting to having a higher risk, higher reward playstyle that is something different from just sitting there and doing gens. Now, to be fair, doing invocations also not fun. It's actually very boring. Frankly, they can incorporate some minigame in there to keep your brain occupied a little bit, whether it be a Skull Merchant arrow game or a skill check, whatever. Just give us something, because just sitting there for 2 minutes is pretty boring, I'm not going to lie. So, that being said, I do love the idea of it. I think the idea of it is cool. There's a lot of stuff that they can do with it to make it interesting. I love the idea of something else progressing the game. But as it stands right now, this is not really it. It's not quite enough to be a justifiable use of the perk as its current state. But again, a lot of things we can do with this. Potential is super high. I love the mechanic, but let's actually make it usable or make it base kit and weak. Something like that. But that's it. Curious to hear you guys' thoughts. Thanks for watching. See you next time.